So that was a really odd game to behold last night, and I mean, thanks to everybody that watched the review. Um, but I wasn't angry. I wasn't angry. There was apathy. There was a resignation to the way I felt. I was resigned to my fate, like resigned to West Ham's fate, and that played out during the game as well because I very much felt like there was no way back into the game for us. I thought there was some little bits and pieces of things to enjoy from Crescencio Somerville, but never at any point did I think that West Ham were going to get a goal or were even capable of getting a goal, and that's quite weird. That's weird, and I think it's not just that; it's the bigger picture with the football club as well, because we've been in sort of worse situations than this. We've been hit for six by Arsenal. Palace put five past us. Fulham put five past us. But I think even when that sort of stuff was happening, you would still think, well, I can speak for myself here, no one else, of course, but maybe another manager might be able to do it differently. Maybe another player might fix it. Maybe that striker or that defender or whoever might come in and we can improve. So I think I had last night sort of localized and generalized resignation to it, which was not only within the parameters of that 90-minute game, that there was no rescue there. There was no rescue going to come in that game. There was no substitute. There was no person that was going to score a goal that was going to get us back into that game, because we were so much worse than Brentford. And I made the point in my video last night that I thought Brentford would be a bottom six team. And by the time I'd finished doing the video, I went and listened to Gary O'Neill and Jamie Carragher, a little excellent. You'll see it on social media now. I was doing the rounds of social media, and Gary O'Neill said exactly the same thing. But so, from a localized 90 minutes, I thought, oh, there's no hope here. And then just from a wider perspective, I don't wish to be too downbeat on this, but it's just how I feel. I'm just being honest. I didn't feel that there was any generalized hope either that we'd get to January and it would be okay, or because we're already on our third manager. And I think by the time you get to this point, you realize there is no manager going to come in and sort this mess out, because the mess runs sort of far deeper than just any manager or any player coming in. And the problem goes back to recruitment, which has just been so bad, and the way the club has been run. Now, I'm doing this video like this today because I went on Sky Sports News earlier this morning, and it didn't really turn out as I expected it to turn out, and I'll explain to you why. Because last night when I watched Monday Night Football, when I listened to Jamie Carragher and I listened to Gary O'Neill, the very much the narrative was that West Ham are in this position because of the ownership, that West Ham are in this position. I loved what Carragher said about West Ham jumping from one director of football to another process of recruitment. He said it wasn't a modern way of doing things. He said that when you look at West Ham and when you compare West Ham to forward-thinking modern clubs, we're just old-fashioned in the way that we do things. And I'm glad he said that, because it is absolutely right. And you look at how we have lurched from a director of football to no director of football, to a head of recruitment, to a manager bringing some players in, to the owner bringing some players in, to agents bringing some players in, back to a director of football, sack the director of football, pay compensation to Chelsea for a head of recruitment, bring him in, sack him. No wonder we struggle so much, and we very much have a mishmash, a bit of a like alphabeti squad, don't we? Really, that's been made up of lots of people having an influence, which is really suits nobody, because it's not been made with one sort of structure or one style of player or one manager in mind. And so when Carragher was saying the fans have got a right to be upset, they're watching the demise of their club. I think I went into to do my Sky Sports bit today with maybe thinking that was still going to be it, that was going to be the narrative would have continued overnight. And I got a bit of a shock really, because it had switched. It had switched from it's the owner's fault to it's the fans' fault. And I wanted to do this video now because there's a clip doing the rounds on social media, which has the start missing off the video. So it's me chatting with Jamie O'Hara, but the start of the video is missing. And it very much looks like I was suggesting all the fans were clapping in the stadium. But that's not the case. I was trying to make the point that even though there were protests outside, when when the players came into the ground, the protest stopped and everyone cheered the players to let the players know that they were supported, because it very much became apparent at the start of the program, at the start of the segment, that the blame was put on fans, which was no, fans are booing the players and fans are protesting. It will upset the players. So I just wanted to make the case that's not the point. So I'm going to play the sequence here. It'll probably get me a copyright strike. I'm probably not able to do it, but I've seen Dan Lawless do this stuff before, and he knows a lot more about this technical stuff than I do. I even had to look behind my camera there just to make sure I was pressing the right thing. This hopefully will give it a little bit more context when you bear in mind that I just didn't like the way it was being spun. So I'll pause it in between and we'll sort of discuss it.
Want to push back on is there's going to be a narrative that starts suggesting that because West Ham fans boycotted that game, that's why we lost. That's not right. I want to make the point. There were protests outside, but when the West Ham coach comes in, the players are clapped and cheered in. So the players know that the fans are behind them. There was probably not that big a difference between the attendance last night and what many of our normal night home games are. There is an apathy. Jamie's right. There is an absolute apathy to everything that's going on with West Ham at the moment. But let's get this absolutely right. We lost last night, but not because of the fans. We've not won since February. So this has been going on a long time with a lot of different players under a lot of different managers. And this all stems from basically the poor ownership.
I'm just going to interrupt myself there. Actually, I'm about to interrupt Jamie. It's quite weird doing a video. Anyway, don't worry about it. Look, I also want to make the point here that I think there were about 20,000 season ticket holders missing from last night. So I believe the attendance was about 40,000 there. So the point I made, you will watch a lot of West Ham games and you will see empty seats frequently. So I just really wanted to make the point. It's not like there was nobody in there. And whilst it wasn't full up and it wasn't raucous, don't get me wrong. The fact that there was some empty seats and lots of empty seats, that might have impacted West Ham's performance. It's absolute nonsense. We lost. Nuno's tactics were awful. Nuno's tactics were absolutely abysmal. And that's why we lost that particular game. But that's the localized version of it. If you look more long term, we are in this position because of the ownership. And I didn't get a chance to say it on here. I made the point in yesterday's video about sorry, let me just pull this down again. I've got a terrible dashboard here. I made the point in yesterday's video about David Sullivan sat up in the stands wearing a glittery sequined blazer. And I think, why did he do that? I just don't understand it. You know there's going to be a protest. You know that the fans are upset. Why draw attention to yourself? At that point, surely you want to be keeping your head down. What was the conversation at home where he said to his missus, "What am I going to wear tonight, love? Oh, do you know what? I think you should go with the sequins." I think, listen, I'll defend anyone's right to wear a sparkly jacket. I've got nothing against sparkly jackets, right? But read the room. It's like I said in yesterday's video. Read the room. Have a look at what's going on. You're going to drive through protesting fans in your Rolls Royce with your glittery jacket on. And then when West Ham start to capitulate, which we did, and we were absolutely shocking, the camera's going to pan to you and you're there all sparkly and blingy and glitzy. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Keep your head down. Read the room. Don't. I felt like it was. He knew there would be protests. He knew there was a boycott, and it felt like two fingers up to the fans. I might be reading too much into it, but that's what it felt like.
Gonzo, I've got to ask you though. It was a poor performance last night from the players,
Awful.
and I get that. You say the fans, they were there and they were clapping. Mate, it was like a game in COVID. Honestly, the atmosphere is completely gone there, and I'm not blaming the fans because you need something to cheer about. But you're going to have to help this club out.
Well, I want to make that point again. I wasn't saying, and this is what's doing the rounds on social media, that the fans are clapping the performance. I said the fans outside the ground were clapping the coach when it came in. What you're going to see now is you're starting to see the pushback. He's just said it. You guys, you West Ham fans, are going to have to help the team out. I know I was surprised. I was really surprised to see this push coming from someone, like Sky Sports, who are, the blame. So much of the blame of this is on the fans. I made the point earlier. We've not won in 8 months. And they started the program by saying it. They both can't be true, because if the fans are to blame, then you would understand it if West Ham had won all the previous games building up to last night's game, and then last night when there was a boycott, we lost. You could say, look, here's the evidence. But West Ham don't win. This is only the second time in our history that we've lost 5 home games in a row. I think the last time was 1931. I think I've got that right. Anyway, I'll let this play out a bit more.
I know you're not happy with the ownership, but you've got to do more when you turn up there because the atmosphere is absolutely dead. How can you expect players to get up for a game? There's no one there.
You have been to the stadium, right, though, Jamie? I mean, the stadium is terrible. West Ham fans
It's not
away
terrible,
are the
though.
loudest.
It is terrible, all right? It is terrible.
It's not terrible. You weren't moaning about that when you're in European football.
It's miles from the pitch. I reckon there's probably been 4 games there since we moved in where the atmosphere was really, really good. There's trampolines separating the top and the lower tiers. I reckon it's about probably 20 metres at some points.
I've been there. Listen, it's not the best, but still, come on, crap.
It's not the best. That's an understatement. It's the worst. Every season, there's a fans poll of away fans and they vote on the stadium. It's the worst. That is putting it mildly. It is the worst. And this is hard when you're doing this because you're going to get interrupted. You're not making excuses for myself here. I'm not expecting this. I'm expecting the Carragher and the O'Neill stuff. I'm expecting to talk about the owners here at this point, and immediately, they're putting you on the back foot, and you're being forced to defend yourself, to defend fans, to defend the stadium. And I mean, listen to what he's saying. How are the players meant to get up for it? It's your fault. It's our fault because the players can't get up for it. I mean, it's crazy. Not that there's no. We get onto the leadership. We'll get onto that in a bit because I try and make the point.
Hey, an atmosphere. Do something.
Well, I think fans do create an atmosphere. I think they really do.
You don't create an atmosphere. The atmosphere at West Ham's shocking.
Away from home, we create a really, really big atmosphere. Home, it's tough. You've asked West Ham, not you, but West Ham have gone from a 35,000 team, which we were at Upton Park, and now this stadium is 66,000. For you to do that, to basically say to 30,000 new fans that come along and support, you need to offer something. There's still a hardcore support there, but noise gets lost in that cavernous stadium. It really, really does. Look, don't get me wrong, I'm not pretending it was raucous last night. It really isn't. But I'll tell you now, the players walk onto that pitch, the fans start singing Bubbles, they shout, "Come on, you Irons," everyone stands up, and from that point, it just goes downhill.
And what I'm saying there is, we do at the start of each game, the fans do their bit. It's loud, and at that point you say, "Come on, in the team have got to give us something." And I mean, I guess this is going to be typical of an ex-player, and particularly one that's on the wind-up, as you'll hear in a minute, to say the fans have got to give the players something. Well, you know what? The players have got to give the fans something. But I would also understand if the players thought that was a bad place to play football. It is not a good place to play football. I would have every sympathy with a player that could do that. And we are so miles away. Here's the weird thing. They're going in total contrast to, firstly, what their Sky counterparts were saying last night, but also during the commentary, the commentator actually did say, I guess one of the good things about this stadium is the West Ham fans are so far from the pitch they don't have to watch this. It was something like that. Something like that.
The team are offering nothing. Look, I don't want to blame Nuno. That was a bad set of tactics last night. But it doesn't matter. We're just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic here. It doesn't matter who the manager is at the moment. We can't keep chopping and changing the manager, that's for sure. But I think you highlighted it, that the players are awful. There might not be much of an atmosphere in the home games. I'm not going to pretend there is. But there's no leadership on the pitch either.
No,
West Ham do not have a leader. And there's no athleticism. You pointed to midfield. We are such an incredibly slow team. And it all goes back to recruitment. Recruitment has been horrendous over successive managers, over a successive period of time. The fans will back. The fans will sing. And you've only got to look at Elland Road. We will sing our hearts out at Elland Road. We really will. We'll take as many away fans to that ground as any other club does. We'll sell out our full allocation. We really will. The fans, honestly, the fans are not to blame.
Will you sell it out on a Tuesday night when you're playing Preston next season?
Right now, look, I've got to be honest with you, right? I'm doing this first thing this morning. I probably should have laughed. I probably should have taken this in more good grace than I did. But yeah, I very much felt at this point I'd been railroaded a bit, really. But at this point, this is where I think I meant to come back and I meant to say, oh no, don't be silly. We won't go down. I think that's why he's doing this, because he thinks I'm going to defend. I'm not defending us. I think there is a really, really good chance that we will go down. I have, in many respects, I have lost the faith. I have lost the faith, and I understand that's not a particularly good thing to do when I sit here doing these videos. But I am worried. I am concerned. I am massively concerned at the state of the club. And this was an annoying and a frustrating interview, because I very much wanted to lay more blame at the feet of the owners, and not just talk about the sparkly jacket, of course. But it was so much of it was, about the fans. And this stadium, I've said this so many times on this channel, this stadium is going to be a real problem in the Championship, because I felt that very much Upton Park was a bit of a superpower for us, really. Nobody really wanted to play there. Everyone's going to want to play in the London Stadium.
Well, it's terrible. Maybe our superpower might have been. Well, you laugh, but maybe our superpower
you've bitten
might
there,
have...
Gonzo. You've bitten there.
It's true though. But that stadium is going to be no good in the Championship. It's going to be half empty.
But do you think you're going to be in the Championship next year? Seriously though, do you think you are going to go down? You mentioned the Titanic.
Yeah, I think it's highly likely. The trouble is, these players do not suit Nuno. I'd suggest they don't suit almost any manager. They're not athletic enough for the way that the Premier League is, and we've mentioned the lack of leadership as well. The trouble is, even if we had a good January, which I'm not sure we will, who's going to want to come and join a team that's rooted to the bottom? Probably not too many players. To get there is going to be difficult. Leeds is going to be difficult. Newcastle coming up. These were the run of fixtures. And Jamie, I thought your Monday Night Football crew were excellent. Jamie and Gary O'Neill yesterday. They really succinctly put it that this is Brentford. Brentford are probably going to be a bottom 7 team. They were miles better than us. They should have thrashed us. It should have been 6-0 probably.
You've heard enough. Quite frankly. Yeah. The problem is with any of this stuff is you're going to get battered with this stuff. You're going to get battered, and just West Ham. We were promised. They made a 10-point pledge. We were promised that moving to the London Stadium, moving to the Olympic Stadium would mean we could compete at the very top. We can't, and I think this is the thing. We've been relegated before. I've seen us be relegated numerous times. We can do it and we can bounce back. It just, I think after, this is the difference, and this is really the context. After being ripped from our home, people call it our spiritual home, our home, after being taken from our home and then moved over to Stratford based on a load of promises, some of which, I'll tell you now, some of which I believe you can actually see. There's a video I did 8 years and years ago. And I went to something called the Newham, it's the Newham Fun Run or something like that. It was a test event. It was held at the London Stadium, right? And before it was London Stadium, but still the Olympic Stadium then. And it was an opportunity. So I got a couple of tickets to this Newham Fun Run. I didn't run, obviously. And I went in and I'm doing a video and I've got the camera there and I'm talking into the camera, talking into the camera phone. I've taken the phone in there and I go to the front row and I very much, and this is the front row. And when this stadium is in football mode, these seats will be moved even further forward. And it was then I started to get worried because I believed that. And on that video, people started saying, "Oh, no, that's it, mate. They have been moved forward. I think you'll find that's as far forward as they'll go." And I said, no, that's not true because I was stood there. They were miles away from the pitch. No. They're going to be moved forward. Okay, yeah, gullible me, right? Of course, gullible me. David Golden said they were going to be as close as Upton Park. Lady Brady or whatever she was called back then did the graphics and the CGI and that wonderful architectural display, which demonstrated how the stands were automated and going to be moved forward and pushed to the edge of moved over the track. So I pushed back on that. I said, no, this is not it. Actually turned out that people that commented on that video were right and I was wrong. That was it. It was already in football mode. And that was the first inkling. I thought, oh, this ain't good. I also want to push back just on something. You get a very finite time when you're on there doing this stuff, and it's difficult. I'm not going to pretend it's easy. It's why I said when Dan Lawless was on with Simon Jordan, what's his name, Jim White. It's very, very well. You get a finite time with these people, and I think I should have made a few of my points a little bit better, particularly with regards to the stadium. And particularly when Jamie said that nobody complained about the stadium when you were winning in Europe. Well, there's two things about that. Well, that's winning in Europe. That's you're being so black and white there. There's been a lot of complaints in between. And by the way, we get a lot of messages on here, a lot of messages on Hammers Chat, a lot of messages on social media from people that do complain about the stadium and have complained when we've been winning because there are still problems with the stadium. Real problems getting from the station, real problems with stop and go from Westfield, real problems accessing the very, very top of the stadium. These complaints, to suggest that no one cares about those things when we're winning, it's just not the case at all. When you're losing, they probably get more highlighted. You probably do hear more complaints, granted, but the stadium is part of the problem. It really is part of the problem. The biggest issue is the ownership, and I just go back to what Jamie Carragher, not O'Hara, Jamie Carragher said last night, which is pretty much that West Ham are, an analog club in a digital world. We are so far off what these modern clubs are doing. And he doesn't have a clue. And I'm talking about David Sullivan here. I'm not suggesting Karen Brady does have a clue, but I'm going to go with Sullivan at the moment because he's the one sat there in the sparkly jacket. I need to stop talking about this jacket. I was far more upset by this jacket than I should have been. But I just thought it symbolised that I don't give a damn. That's what it symbolised. I was on the Hammers Chat patrons addicts chat last night, and Rocky said it on there. He said he thought it was very much two fingers up to the fans, which is I know you're protesting, I know you're boycotting, and here I am. Look at me, I'm still here. But it's hard to believe, and it's hard to think that anybody at that club has got the answers to how to take us forward. Right, I'm gonna skedaddle. I need to upload this. I've got to go on the school run actually. By the way, for those of you that I've not forgotten, I am absolutely going to be doing my other channel. I've not forgotten about it. I've had so many messages about people. I've absolutely been bowled over, particularly since I said I had the diagnosis for the ADHD and the autism stuff. Been bowled over by how many people have messaged me. So I am 100% doing this channel. I need to think of a name. I need to do the artwork for it, and then I'll get going. Then I'll get going for it. And then it just needs to be set up. I think I got half a clue of what to do. But it's clearly I'm bowled over by how many people want to discuss this stuff. So yeah, we'll be talking about it definitely. It don't make you feel any better. This, I tell you what, it's bloody bad for your mental health, West Ham. There's no doubt about that. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to end the recording now. Hopefully, introducing that video and all that sort of technical stuff worked. I certainly won't be making a habit of that, but I doubt I'll be getting asked on Sky Sports anytime soon.